Hello everyone and welcome to this special sports presentation of boys cross country action as the Hatboro-Horsham Hatters take on the QUAKETOWN Panthers. And hello everybody, I'm Bob Anderson and with me is the coach of the boys cross country team, Derek Frommel. Welcome aboard, Derek.
Hi, how are you?
Well, this meet was recorded back on October 12th. It was senior day, and your team entered that meet with a 3-1 record. How were you feeling about that meet, and how were your boys feeling going into that meet?
Well, it was senior day, and we had a large group of seniors, so they were excited about the race. And we need that race in order to go in tied for the league lead headed into the league championships.
Now, was there any kind of special strategy for QUAKETOWN that you had, or you just let the boys run?
No, for most of our races, it's just let them go out and race, especially on our home course because we know it so well.
Awesome. All right, well, let's go out to the fields behind Steinley Stadium for the start of the boys cross country meet. And there they go, and it looks like you had a full crew that day. How many racers did you have?
We had 11 racers that day, and 7 of them were seniors.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. So it was a senior field. It was kind of warm, and there was a lot of activity, obviously, with the senior ceremony before the meet. Any concerns with hydration or any of that?
We've trained in conditions hotter than this, but it's one of those things that they just have to keep taking care of their bodies throughout the season.
All right, and explain the course for people who haven't seen the course before.
So we actually start behind Steinley Stadium. This part right here, we're running behind Simmons. We eventually will go into the Jared Nature Center, run through the Jared Nature Center, and head out to the back soccer fields before winding up, finishing back in Steinley Stadium.
And the distance of the course, how long is it?
It is 5,000 meters or approximately 3.1 miles.
Okay, gotcha. And this is the first turn. This is behind Simmons. And you can see that the pack's pretty tight here. Is there a goal at certain points? Do the boys have that, you know, as far as timing that they want to reach? And how do they keep track of that?
So there are actually 3 places where they try and look for times. The 1 mile mark, the 2 mile mark, and obviously the finish of the race. So the 1 mile mark you won't see in here because it's inside the Jared Nature Center, but we have an assistant coach who will read off times to them there. And then there's a 2 mile mark that's just as they're coming out of the Jared Nature Center, and then obviously the finish of the race is in the stadium.
All right, gotcha. And they're coming down to the field hockey field. They're going to run parallel. Excuse my drone flying there. It was the first time in a while. And so far, so good, but I see all Hatboro-Horsham racers up there. Can you tell us who's leading the pack?
So we have Brian DiCola in front, followed by senior Will Canny, and then junior Rocco Puglisi, and then in 4th place, that's Jack Thompson.
Gotcha. And I don't know if you saw this from your vantage point, but you have to be pretty happy of how the meet's going so far.
Yeah, this is very early on in the race, but it's always good to see a pack of Hatters running together.
Right. And then they're going to be going up on the first base side of the boys' baseball field. They're slightly going uphill at this point. How do you like the pace from what you see from our drone?
Well, obviously it's one of those things where the pack is the most important thing. And right now it looks like Brian's leading the way, which he's done all season for us. And then the other guys are really just trying to follow his lead. Gotcha.
And this is really the probably most grueling part of the race because there's a steep incline here up this hill. It's tough to see here, and they're going to go behind the tower. And so far, Brian is just, you know, leading the pack. Talk about his performance all year.
So Brian has been our leader really all season long. In our 7 races this year, he's gone undefeated. And it's one of those things where his goal is always to try and set a meet record or a course record. So today he was trying to break the course record. And you know, it's one of those things where he's so focused, it's not hard to coach.
I know. I was going to tell a story. Yesterday we were setting up for the soccer game, and I swore I saw him running when we started, and about an hour later I still saw him running. Does he really train for that long, or is
he's working hard all the time, and it's one of those things where he's a great athlete to kind of emulate because he's running even when the coaches aren't watching.
Gotcha. How many years have you been coaching cross country?
So this is my 6th year as head coach.
And is Brian he has to be one of your top.
Oh,
racers.
absolutely. I mean, you know, he's been a varsity runner for 4 years. He's hoping to be a 4-time state participant. So he's absolutely one of our top runners in the program's history.
Amazing. And here he is coming. This is where we enter into the Jarrett Nature Center. And probably like the girl, there's Bob Lachelle, Coach Lachelle, getting people in the right direction.
So at this point, we still have a bunch of hatters in front. They've started to space themselves out a little bit, but we have a good pack still running in the front of the race.
And here's Brian coming out of the Nature Center. And you can see from this shot, there is nobody even close.
Yeah, so in our dual meets, that's pretty much been how it's been for Brian. And, you know, he really gets his toughest competition when we go to our invitationals on Saturdays.
And what motivates him? Because, again, from my experience, from what I saw him, he's running by himself. So what motivates Brian to be really that competitive?
So he's coming from a running family, and he really has a lot of intrinsic motivation to be the best version of himself that he can be. So he sets personal times or personal goals for himself all the time.
And, you know, coaching-wise, is there anything you can tell him, or he just knows everything there is to know?
We've worked on things throughout the course of the years. Early on, it was working on his speed. Now it's really just about race strategy and when to make his move, especially in those races where he's got stiffer competition.
All right, here he is coming down behind Simmons. This is the last kind of leg, and here he is finishing looking strong, and I believe he set the HH course record on this day. Is that correct?
Yes, he did. And it was one of those things that was his goal from the beginning, and he's one that usually meets his goals.
Well, that concludes the end of the competition here. And let's take a look at the final results. And you can see that is the course record, 15:53. Amazing. About a minute and 7 seconds ahead of Rocco. And then it's all HH folks there. So you have to be extremely happy about that.
Having a pack like that makes my job a lot easier, and they really have pushed each other throughout the entire season.
Right. And the closest Quakertown guy was in 8th place, Hickey. So you end up winning the race. What was the reaction of the team afterwards?
I mean, they were certainly satisfied, but they knew we had more work to do in terms of winning the league championship.
Gotcha. All right, well, we're back. Explain what's left in the season at this point.
So we had our league championship race last weekend. We were able to come away with a victory there. So this weekend we have our district championship. That's the only opportunity for runners to advance to state, so it's big for people like Brian to try and make sure they get their ticket punched to Hershey.
And what's his expectations as far as districts?
Well, he won the championship last year, so there's already sort of pressure on him, but it's really all about him and what he wants to do, so I know he wants to win back-to-back.
And how does he react? Because he knows everybody's gunning for him, so everybody's got the bullseye on his back. That's the guy you have to be. How does he handle that?
So I think he's taken it in stride, and he really does understand that they're pushing him to be his best, and so any race that he gets from someone really is making him better.
All right, well, that'll wrap it up for today's production of the boys' cross-country meet. For Coach Frommel, I'm Bob Anderson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.